Good news, everyone! Tonight, Wins for Women, a trans boy band in the works, so many beautiful trans people, and more. Good news starts right now. First up, Tickle versus Giggle. From Lucy Martinez, the Australian federal court has ruled in favor of transgender woman Roxanne Tickle, finding that she was indirectly discriminated against by the social media platform Giggle for Girls. The decision reaffirms transgender women's right to be free from discrimination according to Australian law. Roxanne Tickle sued the social media platform, Giggle for Girls, after being excluded from the women-only app, arguing that this exclusion constitutes unlawful discrimination based on gender identity, while the app's founder, Stell Grover, transphobically disputed her status as a woman. Justice Robert Bromwich said, quote, "The applicant sued the respondents, Giggle for Girls and Sally Grover, alleging unlawful gender identity discrimination contrary to Section 22 of the Sex Discrimination Act. It is not in dispute that Roxanne was prevented from using a mobile phone application known as the Giggle app. The issue was whether it is unlawful discrimination." Sal Grover did not accept the legitimacy of cisgender or transgender, although both terms are useful for discussing relevant facts. The court recognized Tickle as a woman whose female sex is officially recognized by Queensland. The judge additionally noted that gender identity does fall within the scope of the protected statuses under Section 26 of the Sex Discrimination Act. He said, quote, "I found that Ms. Tickle's claim of direct gender identity discrimination falls short, but her claim of indirect gender identity discrimination succeeds. The direct claim failed because it couldn't be proven that Giggle intentionally failed to reinstate Ms. Tickle's access to the app, but she was still denied access to the app because she is a trans woman." Sal Grover, CEO of Giggle and host of transgender-obsessed YouTube channel TERF TV, has previously indicated that she wishes to appeal the decision to the federal court and then to the High Court of Australia. Meanwhile, Ms. Tickle is to be paid $10,000 dues in compensation in addition to court costs. Background audio is a bit high. We can fix that. Live production, folks. Drop it down to 3/4 of that level. Hopefully that will, yay! Hopefully that will do the job. Yes, and that's gonna go in the final copy, because all I'm cutting off is the pre-intro and the post-outro. So, yeah. Members get to play, get to participate. It's a good time. Next up, I need to switch my windows. Here we go. Next up, another TERF app fails. In addition to the giggliness, a trans man went undercover on a gender-critical dating and community app and found that it has fewer than 100 members. From Pink News. Writing in the Washington Blade, Henry Carnell detailed how he was able to gain access to La App, an app created by gender-critical campaigner Jenny Watson, who previously claimed there were, quote, "no female-only dating apps at the moment," and, quote, "lesbians need an app which they can use without being messaged by trans-identifying males." Details about the app caused a storm in June when Watson, who has previously spoken about launching The female-only private members club said it would use facial recognition technology to scan a prospective user's face on their smartphone and was supposedly able to detect if a woman was cis or trans with 99% accuracy, because that has worked out so very well for other apps like Giggle. Research by Pink News found most top dating apps such as Tinder, OkCupid, Hinge, and Grindr are all trans-inclusive and have zero tolerance policies when it comes to transphobia on their platforms. After reading the definition of womanhood on La Community, a site dedicated to lesbian and bisexual women, Carnell realized, quote, that I, a trans masculine person, fit the bill for adult human female. He said, quote, so I checked the box verifying that I was biologically female, snapped a picture of my face, and signed up for the dating app. I didn't shave beforehand, so my testosterone-induced stubble was in the picture. I paid and was refunded the $12.75 to verify my identity, and I was ushered into the community, which was notably silent. The only content was mainly from Watson. Posts included telling members the proper dating app portion of the dating app was on its way, on an invite-only basis, and asking if anyone wanted to join a Zoom meetup because, quote, within the quote, our recent event had only 6 attendees. And another user occasionally posted sporadic lesbian-themed memes. In June, when the details of La app came out, Watson told the Daily Mail the technology analyzed facial features such as bone structure and the positioning of a person's eyes, eyebrows, and nose, and was able to detect if someone was holding up an image of a woman to the camera by noticing physical movements, blinking, and heat emissions. So, the thing about that, These cameras on our smartphones, they're pretty great. They've come a long way in the last few years, but they can't do that. It's not. You can have the best software in the world that can analyze that kind of information, but they're not night vision. That would be cool if they were, but they don't have that capability. And if they don't have that capability to gather the heat emission data, then you can't analyze the heat emission data, which, I don't know, maybe it kind of indicates that Watson doesn't know what the hell she's talking about, but details. She said, quote, anytime I've joined a lesbian dating app or any other dating app myself, I get banned. To avoid trans-identified males, I will always write a little blurb, nothing disrespectful, saying my preference is for women, biological women. Please respect my boundaries. And every time I do that, I get banned. Weird, right? In response to news of La app's creation, the chief executive and founder of queer dating app Her, Robin Exton, previously told Pink News she believed it was largely opportunistic and based on an interest that people have because of online discourse around trans issues. She felt a real sadness the app was being promoted during Pride Month. She said, quote, this is a month where we're supposed to talk about rights, equality, and equal access for our whole community. And this is the time when you choose to build a platform that you intentionally discriminate against part of our community. It's disappointing to publish it now. Her, which boasts more than 15 million members, has been supportive of its transgender users since it launched, facing vitriol last year for welcoming trans and non-binary people, despite that not being something new. The abuse and pile-on the company faced from anti-trans bigots led to the official Her account on Twitter being suspended, and gender-critical male activists to create accounts in a bid to catch out trans women, using it to find love and connections, only to end up exposing each other instead. Her sent a push notification to all members telling transphobes to delete the app from their phones if they had a problem with inclusion. And once again, her has a consistent user base of 15 million members, whereas the transphobic app has about 100. Oops. But hey, such is life. Let's see. Andrew says, I like it though. What is it? I've heard of this before. If you mean the background music, I'm not sure what specifically you're in reference to, but this is called Subway Dreams by Dan Hennig. We have to use official YouTube approved music so we don't get copyright strikes, and that's a YouTube approved music. I kind of like it because of the low-key background sound. It's loopable. It's nice. I hope you enjoy too. Okay, next up is... I'm switching all the buttons here. We gotta switch all the buttons. Colorado proposes a trans Bill of Rights. From Denver 9 News, the NBC affiliate, the bill aims to bring resources and protections to the trans community as Kelly Loving, one of the 5 killed inside Club Q in November 2022, advocated for. With the help of lawmakers, one group is hoping to present a transgender Bill of Rights in the next regular session. They're calling it the Kelly Loving Transgender Bill of Rights. One organizer said, quote, "It's so hard when you lose someone to such a horrific event because you have such a beautiful person. But half the time you talk about them, you talk about how they died and not how they lived." Bread and Roses, the organization that Loving worked with, plans to partner with 2 lawmakers to introduce the bill, which would bring more resources and protections to the trans community. Those were some of the things that Loving advocated for. When I first met Kelly Loving's sister, Tiffany, she shared that her sister was someone that had a big passion for making sure that trans people could live the lives they wanted. So helping people transition, learning how to put on makeup, where to work, how to live, and how to be safe, Williams explained. I think it's important we remember and honor trans people as they live, honoring all the things they did and were to a community. Right now, those with Bread and Roses are distributing surveys within the trans community across the state to identify the big issues that the people are facing. Williams explained, quote, sitting here in Cheeseman Park, a picture of what is to be trans here is very different than it is on the western slope. The further away you get from the urban core, the more issues people face in terms of access, safety, mobility, and opportunity. She said the reason why they announced aspirations for the bill so early is because they want feedback from the trans community. While they wait for the results of the survey, they are meeting with experts in areas like housing and healthcare to make sure whatever they decide to propose is actually feasible. She said, quote, "My hope is that this is history making. It actually changes the dynamics for trans people and our everyday lives." So, if anyone watching in the Denver area is interested in accessing the survey, send an email to breadandroseslaw@riseup.net to request one. Next up, Japan okays a gender change without surgery. A Japanese high court has approved a legal gender change for a transgender woman without requiring gender-affirming surgery, a move that LGBTQ groups on Thursday called a mixed victory. According to current law, transgender people in Japan who want to change their gender on official documents must be diagnosed with gender dysphoria and undergo sex reassignment surgery. On Wednesday, the Hiroshima High Court ruled that this requirement is possibly unconstitutional, marking a shift in how gender issues are addressed in Japan. The claimant, a woman in her late 40s from Western Japan, was assigned male at birth. Her request to change her gender on official documents was previously denied by lower courts. She argued through her lawyers that the surgery requirement imposes significant economic and physical burdens and thus violates the Constitution's protection of equal rights. In October of last year, the Supreme Court declared the sterilization requirement unconstitutional and sent the case back to the High Court, instructing it to reconsider if the claimant could avoid the surgery, an issue that it had not addressed earlier. The High Court noted that hormonal therapy had sufficiently feminized the claimant's body, including her genitalia, without surgery. This decision now allows her gender in official records to match her identity. One of the lawyers said that the claimant cried with relief when he informed her of the ruling over the phone. The Japan Alliance for LGBT Legislation stated that the Hiroshima ruling is progress, as it could allow transgender women to change their legal gender without surgery. However, they noted the ruling does not include those who cannot take hormones and pledged to continue fighting against discrimination on every front. This decision comes at a time of increased awareness of LGBTQ issues in Japan. The ruling that permits the claimant's legal gender change without surgery could be particularly beneficial for transgender women, whose gender-affirming care often faces more controversy. However, unlike the Supreme Court's ruling, the High Court's decision is not legally binding. Next up, similarly, along the same track, another Asian nation, Nepal, grants legal recognition to a trans woman. Nepal's Supreme Court has ruled that Rukshana Kapali, a transgender woman, should be legally recognized as a woman on all official documents without medical proof required. This judgment is the latest in a string of progressive rulings on sexual orientation and gender identity, helping Nepal stand out globally as a leader in LGBT rights. In 2007, the Supreme Court ordered authorities to start issuing documents with gender markers like other or third gender, based purely on how people identify themselves. But despite the ruling, a lack of a clear national policy has caused serious headaches. Transgender people who want to change their gender markers to female or male often have to go through the painful and expensive process of surgery, and they have to do it abroad because Nepal does not have the domestic facilities for gender affirmation surgery. Followed by invasive medical checks at home. Even those aiming for the other marker face unnecessary and humiliating medical scrutiny. The principles, crafted in 2006 by a group of experts, including Nepal's own LGBT rights advocate, underline that the self-defined sexual orientation and gender identity are key to a person's sense of self, of autonomy, and dignity. These principles state that any changes to one's body should be a personal choice, not a requirement. They were the backbone of the Supreme Court's 2007 decision and are central to Kapali's recent court victory. Kapali, a trans woman and a law student, has been tirelessly fighting for transgender rights in Nepal. Since 2021, she's taken the government to court over 50 times, pushing for legal recognition of her gender identity. While this latest ruling is a big win, it unfortunately applies only to her, meaning others in similar situations still have to go through the legal system to be recognized according to their gender identity. Nepal still needs a nationwide policy. The Nepalese government can make things easier for everyone by issuing a directive allowing people to self-identify their gender on official documents without needing to jump through medical or legal hoops. It is a simple step that could make a world of difference for the transgender community in Nepal. However, the fact that this case was successful is progress. It's precedent that other people can cite, and it could be a guideline for future policy. So, yeah, it's good news. Hello, everyone else. I see a Mage, I see a Ryan. Good to see you, folks. Hello. And Andrew. Yeah. We're doing some news up in here. We're doing it live this time, folks. Absolutely. That's one of the perks of being a member is you get the inside coverage on our new production method. And speaking of productions, hey, I'm a professional or something. Our next story, Simon Cowell opens boy bands to trans mans. I know, but we work with what we've got. Simon Cowell is expanding his search for the next big boy band by opening applications to transgender men, according to reports. The 64-year-old music mogul and Britain's Got Talent judge has been on the lookout for exceptional performers to create a band that can achieve the success of One Direction. While Simon has previously remarked that no boy band has matched One Direction's success, he remains hopeful that his new venture will uncover fresh talent. Despite his efforts, the project is already facing challenges, with reports indicating that only 40 people attended his audition in Liverpool. However, Simon seems to be taking a new approach, placing an ad on the showbiz job site Star Now to attract more applicants. A source has expressed, quote, Simon knows he has to change with the times and loves being a trailblazer. He thinks this could be a game changer and shows he understands how progressive the industry is. He anticipated a significant turnout for his auditions in the past week, but the public was surprised when only a few hopefuls showed up in Liverpool. One observer expressed that people started arriving around 9 a.m. on Saturday, but the queue was less than 40 people. It was the same on Sunday. The number of railings put up suggested an expectation of hundreds of people to show up for the audition, but the actual numbers were a little disappointing. However, other auditions have reportedly been more popular, and there are plans for more audition days in London and Dublin in the upcoming weeks. These scenes are set to be featured in a Netflix documentary called The Midas Touch. This news comes after the father of one and talent judge criticized social media, blaming it for the decline of the music industry. Which is a really weird take. But it is fascinating that it'll be made into a documentary, and auditions are still ongoing. This is news. It's happening now, kind of thing. So if you happen to be in the UK, you may have to search around the interwebs a bit to find these auditions, because apparently Simon's putting the ads for them in weird places, but they're out there. You too could be the next trans man on Other Direction, or whatever they call the new band. I have no idea. But I find that it's good that it's being accepted. It's really cool. Ah, yes, as long as Jester isn't here. Yep, as long as we have no Jester, everything should be just fine. And Logan, member for 9 months. Fantastic. Love to see it. Thank you. All right, our next story, I'm sure y'all will just love. We're transing Congress. That's right. We're not just taking the White House. We're not just not going back. We are transing the Congress. From the Iowa Capitol Dispatch. Delaware State Senator Sarah McBride, who in November is expected to become the first openly transgender person elected to Congress, told LGBTQ delegates to the Democratic National Convention on last Wednesday that her candidacy marked a milestone for trans representation. McBride, a candidate for Delaware's at-large U.S. House seat being vacated by U.S. Senate candidate Lisa Blunt Rochester, said she was running not only to, quote, make history with an election, but to make historic change on all the issues that matter. But she also emphasized at an afternoon LGBTQ plus caucus meeting the importance of the example she would set if elected to the seat, considered by election forecasters safely Democratic. Just as Vice President Kamala Harris's election to the presidency would show a young black girl and a young South Asian girl that she can have dreams that reach for the stars, McBride's election would send a similar message to trans people who, after the last couple of years, kind of badly need it. Quote, we can show a young trans person that no matter what extremists say or do, that here in America, We belong, she said. We belong in schools. We belong in our communities. And yes, even in the halls of Congress. She also marveled at how unlikely her candidacy may have been considering the recent past. Quote, if you could have told my 10-year-old self that there'd be a room full of amazing Democrats chanting my chosen name, I never would have believed it, McBride, who is 34, said after taking the stage to a standing ovation. McBride pledged to advance LGBTQ plus rights in Congress, but also to work toward other issues, including making health care and child care more affordable and protecting reproductive rights. Chasten Buttigieg, husband of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who became the first openly gay candidate to win most delegates in a presidential nominating contest in the 2020 Iowa Democratic caucuses, echoed McBride in discussing the feelings of belonging for LGBTQ people in the party. He said, quote, I keep thinking about what it is like walking in the halls of a high school as a closeted teenager. And had I ever passed a room like this that said LGBTQ caucus, how I would have run away, that I would never have had the courage to walk through that door. How remarkable it is today to be surrounded by friends and family, to look at our neighbor and know that not only do we belong here, not only should we take up space here, but we have power here. I think that's pretty remarkable. And frankly, so do we. Let's send some progress to Congress. And our top story today, our grand finale, another trans beauty queen from the Washington Blade. LGBTQ activists in Mauritius, that's a nation in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Africa, for any of you who may have confused it with Mauritania on the west coast of Africa, have applauded Michelle Carla, the first transgender woman to reach the finals of the Miss Universe Mauritius pageant that took place on August 10th. Carla was among the top 15 finalists vying for the ultimate Miss Universe crown. She did not win, but she was in the finals, and that's pretty fucking cool. She said, quote, queer visibility has often been weaponized against the LGBTQ community, and the participation of myself in the Miss Universe 1 year after the advancement of transgender rights as a project where trans people have started being positively represented is a powerful message and a symbol of a door being opened by us for us. Hannah Telvave, an LGBTQ activist, said, quote, it is important that we back Carla up so that she knows that the whole community is behind her and that her participation is courageous in a climate that still encourages online transphobia and online hate speech, as evidenced by the recent debacle in the Olympics. My goodness. Telvave noted the Miss Universe organization has allowed trans women to compete since 2012, but added, quote, it took a long time for one transgender woman to join Miss Universe Mauritius, and it shows the gap between our administrative and legal systems. However, this is a powerful message of hope, but it also shows us how much work we still have to do when it comes to legal gender recognition so that people can freely express their gender identity and their dreams, Telvave added. Daniel Wong, another LGBTQ activist, said Carla's participation in the beauty pageant is an epitome of the inclusion of LGBTQ people in society. Quote, this is a true and real example of inclusion that says much about moving into the right direction for the advocacy work for transgender persons to acquire equal civil rights. The participation of Carla is a milestone that values and respects all transgender women wishing to participate in future beauty pageants. Hats off to Miss Universe for the bold and pioneering move of supporting the LGBTQIA+ cause in Mauritius. And we are absolutely behind that. It's fantastic to see more trans women in beauty pageants, because as much as the transphobes say, you look like a man, you'll never be a woman, we can always tell, the truth is, trans is beautiful. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe, support our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TheTransPositions and reap heaps of benefits. Our meme of the week was posted by Lizzie Lee. And if you want to join, excuse me, and if you want to become part of our cinematic universe, join us on Discord. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people that you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that on the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.